after a long after a long decline. That's
That's the hard part.
that's something to be happy it's over.
Yes, I exactly. Exactly.
Well, we can bring all of this into the space of the workshop today, but I will not volunteer you about that. If you want to, then you are welcome to. I would like to open the workshop. Welcome to Life Writing Live on Friday, the 18th. I am not at home. I am at the Norwestcon Science Fiction Convention here, where I will be presenting, hopefully accepting an award for somebody who won the Philip K. Dick Award, and seeing friends and enjoying myself. So I would like to introduce my partner in crime, the lovely and talented Tanana Reeve Dew.
I don't have all my face on yet, but hello everybody. Good to see you.
Great.
And welcome to Life Writing Live. I guess part of my job here is to set the stage, have everybody try to bring up their energy as much as they can. And since life writing is all about talking about what's going on in our lives, I think Steve might know where this is going. Let's play the what's going on music from our life writing podcast. Let's go. Okay, that's enough. There we go. What's going on? Welcome to Writing Church, and looking forward to fellowshipping with all of you here on Life Writing Live. Back to you, baby.
Okay. So let's everybody unmute yourselves and just say hello to everyone. I get the feeling that today a little extra energy would be wonderful for everybody. Who needs a little extra energy today? So do that by giving that energy to other people. You'll get it back for yourself. So hi there. High five,
Hello,
everybody.
everybody.
Hello,
Hey,
everybody. It's
everybody. Good to
always
There
good
you
to
see
go.
see
you.
people.
Yes.
Jazz hands, everyone.
That's great.
Yeah,
That's
jazz
right.
hands.
Jazz hands. Bring it on.
Oh,
Right.
that really messes with the Zoom background blur.
Oh man, you know the energy with which you start your day or start an activity is critical. So learning how to control your energy so that the idea is that you have everything you need to get everything you need, but you don't have any energy to waste. Okay, it's gonna everything. All it takes to get everything you need is everything you've got. So you have to be careful, very, very careful. And kind of the I always wonder about the thematics. I almost like try to start with an idea, and it's almost
Okay.
always an idea something that I need. I'm looking at myself. I'm looking at what I need because I have very specific sets of goals, and everything that I teach you is something that I am using to help keep myself going every day, keep myself directed, just focused just one day at a time. And it gets to the point where it's automatic. You don't really think about it. It's that you keep in mind where it is that you want to go. Now, I talked about the fact that I'm creating a program for the Black Karate Federation, my home organization, that to take their black belts and to teach them how to take the skills that they used as a black belt to earn their black belt and use those same skills to build a family, a loving family, and to build wealth in their communities. So, and I'm actually going to pay them to go through the program. So it's like that increases my motivation to make money. It's like, okay, I'm going to take 5% of what I earn, and this is where it's going to go. This is the charity that I'm supporting. But one of those things is you have to learn how to be efficient and effective. Uh, the thematic for today was don't trade pawns for kings. Uh, I wanted to tell you a story about a young man whose identity you might guess, but I just find myself uh, thinking that it might be best to say it this way, who had a lot of goals and a lot of desires to reach those goals and thought about these things frequently. And one day, when he was about 19 years old, he was standing at a bus stop, and a bus pulled in, And a kid, the young man I'm speaking about is black, and the kid who was on this bus with a bunch of other kids was white. And the white kid on the bus gestured to him, come over here. And so the young man, curious, walked over closer, and the white kid spit in his face and called him the N-word. The young man felt an immediate flash of homicidal rage. Didn't want to do anything except storm onto that bus, grab that kid, and beat the hell out of him. Period. But what happened next was that a series of images flashed through his mind. What would happen if he did that? Perhaps he would beat the hell out of this kid and then escape. Perhaps he would be beaten and the kid's friends would jump all over him. Perhaps he would beat hell out of the kid and then be arrested, go to jail, get a record, which would disrupt his future. He could see that the things that he wanted to do with his life had nothing to do with the urge for revenge. That kid found some way to wipe the spit off his face, look at that kid and think to himself, I have a destiny. And that destiny is not served by reacting to what you just did. And if you are the kind of person who would do that, your destiny is in real trouble. And actually found the way to think, I hope you find the way to heal from whatever it is that made you do that. And he went on with his life. Why? As you are on the way to accomplishing what you want to accomplish, you have to think a couple things. First, if you had all the tools that you needed to accomplish the goal, you'd already have it. You better count on the fact that you need to learn along the way. That the obstacles that life will throw at you as you head towards a new goal are like weights in a gym. They're exactly what you need to become strong enough to reach your goal. Maybe you lift the weights all at one time. Maybe you get a wheelbarrow and move the weights. Maybe you break the weights down into individual pieces and you move them. But that's the stuff you have to do to create the change, to be the person who can do the thing. The young man needed to know that people could not sway him from his path simply by being willing to get beat up. Someone willing to get beat up can destroy your life by triggering you. Asking yourself, do I need to react to this? What happens if I do? What happens if I don't? That implies that you have moved away from the egoic way of thinking. The ego wants the immediate response. But your soul, your spirit, the part of you capable of actually achieving your goals, is a deeper thing and cannot be damaged by somebody's opinion or by somebody spitting in your face. It's totally human to react. And if he'd not been on that bus, I would have been on him. But the fact that I would have to get on that bus and to do that gave me a moment to think. And in that moment that I thought, I changed my destiny. Oops, did I say that was me? Yeah, I didn't intend to do that, but there it is. Every single day, you will be given opportunities to be other than yourself. Every single day, you'll be given opportunities to do things that will not take you in the direction of your dreams. And in life, everything you do that is not in alignment with your dreams is robbing you of something that could have taken you in the direction of your dreams. You need to have dreams that are more important than your ego. You need to have dreams that are more important than the fact that you don't feel like getting out of bed. that you don't want to do it. If it is true that one of the most powerful powers in human psychology is the urge to be consistent with our self-image, then you need to get really clear on who it is that you say you are and who it is that you need to be in order to accomplish your goal. Because one of the advantages, and this is relatively really within the last year that I thought about this really directly, somebody proposed the notion that one of, or perhaps the most important thing about a goal is asking yourself, what kind of person would I need to be to reach that goal? And ask yourself, am I that kind of person now? What is the path between where I am and that goal? What are the daily behaviors that evidence me being on that path? In other words, if you say you have a goal, I'm going to ask you, what are your habits? What are your behaviors? If your behaviors every day are in alignment with the person you need to be in order to reach that goal, you're going to get there. You're going to get there. And I'm going to not just sit back and applaud. I'm going to say, listen, can we brainstorm? You're directed just the way I am. Let's talk about our goals every day, every week. And you get that mastermind thing. If there was something that made me realize that I could have a relationship with Tananarive, it was seeing how focused she was, how flexible she was. That in any given system, there's something called the law of requisite variety. In any given system, the part of the system that is the most flexible will end up controlling the rest of the system. Same thing is true in relationships. If you're flexible while keeping your eyes on the goal, you will eventually get what you want. You keep trying different things. I'm going to try this, 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 but I'm going to get there. It's like you're keeping your eyes on the top of the mountain. It doesn't matter if you have to backtrack, go sideways, or you're going to get there. You're going to figure it out. You might have to go back down and get some better equipment, but you're going to figure it out. You have to be like that with the things you want to accomplish. Every day, you're going to be offered 1,000 different options of the behaviors that are there for you. Which one will you choose? Choose the one that is in alignment with the person you need to be to get to the goal that you have decided is worth pursuing, something that is worth more than your own ego. Now, so if you want to write, you might say to yourself, I believe that within me is a message that could save someone's life. That within me is something that could change the world. I mean, all it takes is seeing a truth that is deeper than the people around you have seen and expressing that in a way that they can understand. And if it's the truth, it'll change everything. Because the truth is what we need to move through life. So if all you need to transform the world is to speak your truth deeper and more clearly than you ever have before, then you can connect anything you want to do to your deepest values. I want to serve the world. Remember the meaning of life: to escape suffering, embrace joy, and be of service. And all of us have understood this. You know, who has been sick but gotten out of bed to feed their kids? You know, who's been sick and gotten out of bed to feed their cat? I mean, that's right.
I was just thinking that from when I had COVID back in the day.
That's right. That there are things that are more important than our comfort. And as we try to figure out how to motivate ourselves to keep doing the same damn thing day after day after day, because that's what mastery is. It's not an epiphany and angels in the sky opening. It's you get out of bed and you do the same shit every day. You do it again tomorrow. And you do it again tomorrow. You try to get, just 1% better at something. And most people cannot do that. They want to think, unless you're talented, or unless you're born with privilege, or unless this, or unless that. Everything except the hard, ugly truth that where you are in life is largely determined by what you make of what you're given rather than what you're given. It's not fair to compare you with other people who were given more, but you can certainly compare yourself with other people who are given approximately the same thing. And unless you're in the top 1% of that, you got some growing to do. You have more growing that you can do. It's like, well, where am I? It's like, remember, I'm not fighting. I'm not, if I'm playing cards in a casino, which I wouldn't do, I'm not playing against the casino. I'm playing against the other players. So all the questions about what the advantages are and what this, something that's all true, and what you're going to do. All that stuff is true. And in life, you either have reasons why you didn't do it, or you've got the results of having done it. And one of the things you must do is be so clear on your values that somebody cutting you off on the freeway will not throw you into rage. Somebody saying something unpleasant to you does not draw you off your path, because it's almost as if the forces that oppose us as human beings have little demons, little devils they can send to us, often in the form of people we don't care about. Why care about the opinions of someone you don't care about? My attitude is I care about the opinions of people who would give me a pint of blood if I was bleeding to death. The rest of the world, I can't afford to care. I cannot afford to care. It's not that these people are bad people, but I have a finite amount of attention. I care about myself and my dreams. I care about my family. And there are ways in which I care about my son and my daughter more than I care about my own life. And I'm very clear about that. What other things do I care about? If I have something I have to do in life, I'm going to attach it to the deepest concerns I have. I will know that I am the king on the chessboard, and that the irrelevant people trying to get me to be a part of their agenda are pawns. This comes into things like, don't look at your email first thing in the morning. First thing in the morning, rewrite your goals. Look at your goals. Spend the first hour of your day reminding yourself who you are, where you're going, how today fits in with the plan of what you're doing. Raising your energy, changing your mood, getting that hallelujah sense of this is another day and I'm going to seize this day and do it. You don't wake up like that. Unless you do. I mean, if you do, it's fantastic. Yeah, I teach me Sifu. I wake up in the morning, it's like, oh God, it's a nice warm bed. I don't want to get out of bed. And I remind myself what I have to do. And then I remind myself of what I want to do. Because, the pain of I've got to do this kind of gets you moving. But then you want to switch to I want to do it. If you can find ways to take pleasure in the things you're doing, then the more you do, the better you feel. Whereas if you're motivated by pain, the more you do, the greater the pain diminishes, so there goes your motivation. So when you're motivated by pain, you're more likely to get into that cycle of, dieting and falling off the diet, budgeting and falling off the budget, writing and well, I've done my sentence, I proved that I could do it, so let me throw that away. Whereas if you say, okay, I'm going to write at least a sentence a day for a month. And while I'm doing that, I'm also going to be looking for all the positive reasons to write, because I'm going to need that to motivate myself. Why keep picking yourself up off the ground? Every single person you respect, and we all have role models, whether they're our parents or friends or teachers or great leaders, every single one of them woke up in the morning feeling like, I don't want to do it. How did they keep going? They kept going until they became an inspiration for you. Maybe that's what got them going. They wanted to be an inspiration for others, as others had been inspirations for them. I don't know. But find that. Find the thing that you're willing to commit to. Find the thing you're willing to die for. And then make sure that all of the things you do in life are connected to those deep goals. You're the king, you're the queen on your chessboard. Understand what you are willing to risk yourself for. That boy I was at 19, standing there at the bus stop, protected by positive behaviors and, being polite and, being well-spoken and so forth, was like a king after you've castled it, sitting behind other players. Imagine a pawn coming to the center of the board and going, And the king says, I can't stand that. And the king comes out from behind the rook and goes out to the center of the board to whip that pawn's ass. There's a lost chess game right there. Be sure, be careful. Invest yourself in the things that make a difference. I, at this moment, think that the most important things that I'll be giving the Black Karate Federation for that project I'm working on, starting with the breathing 5 times a day. There is so much that is connected there, from psychology to executive function to literally just time management, and then the physiology of stress. So much. And then the second thing is to read your goals or reread your goals or rewrite your goals morning and night. Every morning you get up, take a look at your goals, work your day. At the end of the day, look at your goals. How did you do? What got in the way? What worked? What didn't work? What are you going to do tomorrow? You're going to roll some goals over, whatever. But that process of every day you look at your goals, do what you're doing. At the end of the day, you check. Can take 60 seconds a day and totally change your life. You can do that while you're doing your breathing. The next thing is to start building a morning ritual where you are you're exercising to get your energy up. You're meditating to clear your mind, to get clear on what's important today. What are the 3 most important things that I need to accomplish today? And then you make sure you move heaven and earth to do just those 3 things. And if you have any doubts about yourself, reduce it to small steps, like I need to write a sentence today. I need to walk around the block today. I need to pick up the phone and call a friend and tell them that I love them today, just to kind of keep, that's, your body, your mind, your heart. You expand from there, but what is the minimum that you need to keep yourself moving forward? Make sure you get that minimum. And if you reduce it to a small enough moat, if you don't do it, you know that it's not about life getting busy. You know that some part of you is not willing to let you have the best. And then the last thing is that notion of improving 1% a day. I find that to be really valuable. I argue with myself about whether or not that is, what are the most important things. And I think that notion of 1% a day might be because our egos will try to sabotage us by trying to get us to believe that we have to do everything at once and it has to be perfect. As opposed to, let me just take one step. So, breathing. Check your goals morning and night. Start building out your morning ritual and aim to improve just 1% per day. There is a lifetime of additional things I can add to that, but at this instant, those 4 things seem to be most important. And when you get clear, you start being able to differentiate between pawns and knights and bishops and rooks and queens and kings. And you must know this, or life will beat you. You're playing chess, and your opponent is time. And if you don't play to win, your opponent will simply pick your pieces off the board until you've got nothing left. Whew. So, anyway, what's going on? We didn't do really what's going on there. So Tananarive, why don't you start with what's going on in your life and our life from that position, and we can talk about how we're organizing ourselves to stay on track.
Sure. Hey, everybody. I feel like somehow, despite everything that's going on, all the madness in the outside world, we've done a really good job of not completely sort of cutting ourselves off from information, but staying focused on our specific tasks and goals. And we have some pretty big ones that are very immediate. Like I have a book due May 1st, so that's very clarifying. And also we're directing a movie, which is a process that really started weeks ago. Directing isn't what happens on the set. I mean, what we're learning more and more is what happens long before you get to the set. So I'm literally directing almost as we speak, sending an email to the director of Hard Eyes to update him and ask, for his advice as we're looking for a production designer and just to let him know where we are in the process because he set us anyway. That is going great. We have a beautiful storyboard. We've brought on a director of photography, a young man we're both very excited to start working with, and is already highly collaborative and blowing up our texts.
Hey,
So he's a
Steve,
young man.
just for the sake of fun, could you do
Yeah.
a screen share with just one picture from our storyboard?
Okay. Okay. Just one picture, huh? All right. That's because there are I mean, this
Well, you can
is
show a couple if you wanted to. I'm going to put you
okay. Hold
in the
on one second.
spotlight.
Hold on one second. I'm trying to pull up something that will be evocative. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with The Keeper, which is the short film we're developing. It's adapted from a graphic novel, which was adapted from a feature film. So this is our second time adapting it. Um, okay, and it's about an old woman who conjures a demon to take care of her orphaned granddaughter after she dies. And it is about aging. It is about being uncertain in the system. It is, as the Japanese executive said, because our funding is coming from a company in Japan, Black girls need someone to take care of them too. That's what she said. So this is the kind of image that's meant to evoke the fragility of this situation. This woman can barely take care of herself, and now there's this young child coming into her life. Um, so through a variety of means, we've created a bunch of images to show their relationship, to try to build the character, but she's worried about this oxygen tank that her grandmother uses when she sleeps. The grandmother's doing her best to provide a home for this kid. So it's
Okay, not
grounded.
not too much. Remember, we're going to
Okay,
put this up on YouTube eventually.
okay. It's grounded horror. And if you've read The Keeper, you know what that amulet means, and that's all I'm gonna say. I'll respect your wishes, my co-director, because I can go all the way in.
I know
I
you
am so
can.
obsessed with the storyboards. I worked on that all day yesterday. But anyway, so there's that. It's starting to move pretty fast. Like a former student of mine said when I reached out to get her suggestions for a production designer, um, it's like, you start the pre-production and it's kind of this slow moving train. But Steve, I think you would agree that ever since we hired Kenzen, our director of photography, things are moving super fast. Like now we're getting pictures of people who want to audition for parts. They're going to go to the Universal lot to audition for these parts. So even if they don't get the part, what a peak experience it'll be for some kid, you know what I mean, who gets to read for the role. Or an older actress who hasn't had work in a while to get to feel like she's going to get back in the business maybe. So that part, the collaborative part, seeing it as an expanding family is both a little intimidating, but now because I did scare up the vote back in October trying to raise money for Kamala Harris, that was like directing. I told you, Steve, it felt like directing. And it is very similar energy. It is very similar energy.
I can see that. I can see that. I mean, it certainly is very similar energy to The Walker,
Yes, the
our
Walker,
radio
or
play. I don't know how
yes,
many of you have had a chance to to look at that and put the link
I'll
in
put
the
it in chat.
yeah
I'll put it
in
in
chat
chat.
again. But taking a short story that created a story world and then asking myself, is there a way to tell a story that takes place in this world that would make a good radio play? And the answer, of course, was yes. And or at least what I said to myself was yes. Whether it's good or not is not for me to say, although I can tell you that we're really proud of it.
We're very proud of it.
And that the process of writing it, casting it, doing pre-production, making sure what resources that we have, trying to communicate. Not you can't say communicate the vision. It was communicate the auditory. Uh,
Right.
was very challenging, and just trying to communicate with Tananarive what it was that I heard in my head when it came to these different scenes was difficult.
It was challenging. It was challenging.
It really was. And so one of the things I know is that the next time I need to be there while the sound guy is working. So I can say, turn this up. And now we not only have sound this next time, but we're going to have the visual as well. So,
Yes.
it's this is, and then putting it together and then going through the post production. There's all that eagerness and let's get it done and what's stopping this and why is this taking so long. I would anticipate that between Danger Word, the short film that we produced and wrote, and The Walker, which we directed and wrote and produced and distributed, we now are familiar with the entire set of skills. By the time we have done this short film, we will know in small form everything that we need to do to succeed at making a larger film. So this is just a matter of, this is going to be tough, but we have to lift this in order to become strong enough to reach the next challenge. Okay.
Yes.
This is like, the Danger Word was a major lift. Just getting published were lifts. Doing The Walker, major lift, and now doing the short. That each of these things, you look at them as who do I need to be to make a feature film? For years it had been a matter of, writing scripts and trying to get them, trying to get somebody to buy them, writing scripts and trying to get somebody to buy them, and just getting nowhere. So finally getting that patience my ass, I'm gonna kill something attitude. Let me make my own thing.
And
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. And it honestly, to me, it boils down to the joy of learning. I had a minor curiosity about what it might be like to direct. I've had people mention in the past, maybe that's something I should do. But it was sort of this gray mist. I didn't know how to even begin. I mean, I shot a little film on YouTube and put it up, but like just me like holding up.
But that was part of it. You wrote it, directed it,
True. I
acted
even
in it,
edited
and
it, you know.
you edited it and distributed it
Right.
in embryonic form. That's Avatar. That's a full, massive feature film.
Well, I'll tell you this, honey. I am fully confident that we could do a feature now because I think working together on this short film is even more seamless than working on The Walker for whatever reasons. And,
But
or at
we
least it
haven't
feels
done
that,
it yet, hon.
well,
Just
okay, but at least it
start
feels that way to me. I know we're just getting started,
and
but
knives out, baby.
I feel like I feel just like we're in sync with each other on so many things about the keeper. Maybe it's because it's been with us for so long. We're
It
not
could be. I
learning
mean,
it.
and it could, and I don't want to discount what you're saying, um, because both of us are looking at doing something we've never done before, and there is going to be fear connected with that. So the confidence and the faith is part of what we need to be able to take that fear and turn it into energy. So that, okay, we're going to take that fear into over preparing.
Yeah, because I have a former student from UCLA who's now a grad student at USC that I've been using as sort of a sounding board. I'm going to pay her something to be my assistant to a director kind of thing, just. And she sent me an email with a list of questions I wouldn't have even known how to answer in January.
Right.
And now it was like, boom, I know what all
Oh,
these
just wait
positions
until
are. I
we
know what.
start. Wait until we start understanding the differences between different lenses.
Yes, yes, I
This
can't
kind of
wait.
shot, that kind of shot, and this and that. I mean, all that stuff has to be an unconscious competence. It's like touch typing. As long as people keep adding new keys to the keyboard, I've got to work with them so that I can get to that place where my hands know what I'm doing, so that I can just dream. And I think that with everything that you're trying to do, it is a matter of identify what are the pieces that are needed, identify which of those pieces are things you do not know at a level to create art. In order to create art, it has to be an unconscious competence in the midst of the war. You do not have time to train. It's like, who are you at that moment? Uh,
That's great.
in studying martial arts, a martial art does not save you. The attributes you develop psychologically, emotionally, and physically, those things will save you. So what we're trying to learn about directing, we can go to master class and this, and all those things are interesting information, but the only way to put that information in our bodies is to actually use it. And the closer we can come to the experience, it's like, our director of photography talking about how he's taking these images from the storyboard and is going to turn them into 3D graphics. That is going to be, I can't even say how amazing it's going to be when we can look, when he does that, we can look around and say, well, we could shoot it from this angle. We could shoot it from this angle. What if we did this from this angle? What if
Honey,
we
that's
did
what
this?
got him the job, frankly. I mean, his interview was going great, but when he busted out with his 3D imaging program and showed us how it worked, we were like, oh, we want him.
Yes, because it doesn't even matter that he doesn't have as much experience as somebody
Yeah,
else. He was speaking our language. We can
he
grow more.
was.
What matters is that we're all competent. He was clearly more than merely competent.
Right.
You know,
And
and
oh,
go
sorry.
ahead. No.
One thing I just want to say is I've noticed lately that I'm having a hard time staying asleep at night. Like I'm starting to wake up at like 4:30, having more trouble going to sleep and having trouble getting back to sleep. And it reminds me of when I was in grad school out of the country, when every day was just so full of new sights and new sounds that I was just like this all the time, just vibrating. And some of us are feeling like this all the time from bad stuff, or you're feeling like this from good stuff. And it does interrupt your peace of mind. And I noticed when I was meditating last night, before I could even think about powering down to go to bed, I had to meditate. No, that there are these layers of like things I was thinking about that I was dropping down, like on the surface, it was like, yay, this storyboard is so much fun to work on. That's what I worked on all day. And that's what was conscious. But then there was, man, we had a great time Thursday night when we saw Brian Fuller's upcoming horror movie. And oh my gosh, Jason's doing so great. And it's like bump, 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 bump of all these things that are exciting. The movie, the book is almost done, that I had to really breathe and try to like capture that moment, which is what meditation is about, is being mindful of an instant, every breath, like notice your nostrils, notice how your breath feels. Like you have to really try to get to the cellular level in stillness, right? And it was hard, but I saw, wow, I was way up here. No wonder I have trouble getting to sleep because I'm thinking about things I don't even know I'm thinking about.
It is, I think that what you just said is as close to dead bang as I that was the truth. That what we're going through is we're becoming people we've never been. We're doing things we've never done. We're going into places that we don't understand. And we have to surround ourselves with people who are willing to both believe in us and understand our limitations. That both the people who can see our limitations and also believe that we're growing fast enough to be able to do this. That's what I need. You
I
know,
think our executive is very impressed with us. Like I told Steve, we're creatives who approach creating a movie like college professors. So we're very focused. We do the things we say we're going to do. We're very practical minded. We're very collaborative. We're adults, as Steve's our manager put
yeah,
it.
I remember a long time ago, I was not happy with our representation because, quite frankly, I knew that they were more interested in Tananarive than they were interested in me. Just like that was one of those moments in my life where I had to kind of be honest about what was going on there and what I was feeling, and so that I didn't, so those feelings would not come up and rat pack me, from behind. It's like, no, let
Yes.
me put them in front of my eyes. It's not fewer feelings, but I'm acknowledging that they're there. I am hurt. I had my own dreams of what I wanted to do, and anything I've done in the past, one of my television episodes won an Emmy. I've won a Cable Ace Award, and this and that. None of that matters in the moment. In the moment, you have that child part of you saying, "Why not me? Why
And we
not
had
me?"
a previous manager who wouldn't even be bothered to try to set you up with a meeting.
I know. Just it hurt.
Ridiculous.
There have been real ego pains. And my agent, Jonathan Westover, who I actually trusted, I actually had a trusted agent, and he retired, which left me with nothing. But he recommended a friend of his named Jim Strader. And so I went to meet with Jim, and Jim was, and he, as a manager, not as an agent. A manager is sort of like a best friend who happens to be in the industry who'll always get on the phone with you and talk about what you want. He kind of keeps your dreams of where you want to go in mind. You know, there are things that they do that are similar to an agent, but it's a little bit more personal. And he was very receptive to working with me. And I remember we're having lunch at this restaurant, and I came very close to choking up. It's like, you know, my sense of self had been damaged by realizing that these people did not want me. I was just part of the package. And they had to, you know, they were looking at me as the talentless husband married to the genius wife. That really was the way they were coming across to me. I can't say that's what they were thinking, but that's how it felt.
Hmm.
And I just kind of said at one point to Jim, I said, why? Why do you want to work with me? And he said something very interesting. He said, because you're an adult. And I thought about that. And I didn't have to ask him what he meant. I understood that I was working as hard as I could to take responsibility for my emotions. I was trying very hard to be supportive to this incredible woman in my life who's trusting me to support her, you know, and I want so much to be the best possible partner for her, you know, that's the only way to create a family that is a place that is safe enough for my son to step into his glory. It's there's so many reasons, but people trip themselves up. They let their egos stand between them and their dreams. What's going to happen here? If this all works out, what's going to happen is going to happen because of all the work that both of us have done and all the scripts and things that we've put out there. And then Tananarive had an event with her grandmother that frightened her as a child, that she turned into an idea for a script and turned into a short story. And we brought that script to Jordan Peele, and he wanted it. And Universal said no. And then that was heartbreaking. But then John Jennings said that he would like to do it as a graphic novel. So we made the adjustments there. It came out as a graphic novel.
And Jordan Peele blurbed it.
And Jordan Peele blurbed it. That's right. Jordan is a great human being. I mean, I have nothing but love for him. And then the script for The Keeper was one of the samples that our management sent out. And it went out to this one company that wants to do it. And part of their plan for doing it is to do a short film first. They said that they'd like to do it, but they'd like us to direct it. And they'd like
Yeah,
to
that
do
we
a
weren't
short
expecting that.
weren't expecting that because they felt that that way the idea of Tananarive and Steve, you know, that trust me, my brain, you know, that pain, that
Don't you
stuff
put
is
parentheses
there.
in front of your name.
Yeah, I know.
I heard those parentheses.
Yeah, they were shadow parentheses, no question about that. That's in order you realize that everything I have been working for all these decades is right there in front of us, and all I have to do is keep my ego out of the way. All I have to do is be the best I can be, is to take everything that I've been learning about controlling myself and keeping my dream and not trading pawns for kings, all of that stuff. If it could help me get through these next little keyholes, these next things, that everything is there. On the other side of that is being the person I've wanted to be my entire life. And all I have to do is surrender to this process, is to trust. It's not, it's tough. But it's one of the reasons why I'm really grateful for these meetings on Friday, that I get to talk about what I'm really feeling, and Tanandri gets to talk about what she's really feeling, and we get to rise together. Sweetheart, is
That's the fun part, rising together. I'm loving this. I mean, by the time the Walker was finished and we listened to the final project, any conflict or discomfort we'd had along the way went out the window for me anyway. Hope you felt the same way. And I've heard people say that, you see all these movies about people making movies and everybody hates each other. And then the movie comes out and they're all best friends again because it's a great movie. That's real. That's real. And that experience, which we gave ourselves, I think that's the biggest advice I would give anyone out there who, especially if you're interested in getting into Hollywood and screenwriting, is I wish we had made our own film sooner. I
Yeah,
wish
and if you
we
can't
had
make a
done this
film,
sooner.
if you can't make a film, make a radio play. It's the
Yes.
same thing in so many ways, and you can do the whole thing with the software that you've got on your computer, GarageBand, and a few friends, and sound effects you can get off of free sites, and you can actually experiment with and see what is it like to have people actually speaking your dialogue, and then you can put it out on YouTube, and now you've got distribution. All you
And
need to do is
and
to get some traffic across it.
and you
So,
may learn you love it or you may learn you don't like it. It's useful to know. It's
but
useful to
this
know, and you've given it to yourself.
And this is part of, this is unexpectedly part of what we now have to offer people in our screenwriting workshop. Let's kind of go into this because we want to make sure that if you're interested
Sure.
in screenwriting, you have the chance to go and do this. That on May 17th, we're going to be teaching a screenwriting workshop. And you can find out more about it at www.writerwebinar.com. And just being in that workshop gets you a couple months in the Lifewriting Pro program. So it's
Which, by the way, as someone who's taught at Clarion West in an MFA program in screenwriting and VONA and organizations like that, our workshop program very
take,
much has that energy.
take it over for a second. I got somebody knocking at my door here. I need to find out what's
Oh,
going on.
sure. Yeah, I mean, it's an add-on. And we didn't even realize, we didn't even have a workshop program when we were promising people. We knew we would have to create it, but some of you may be Evelyn's there. They can attest to it. It is a real workshop and it's worth, I mean, honestly, we're probably undercharging for this course. I know money is tight for everyone, so I don't really mean that, but according to the prices I've heard about out there for people who are teaching screenwriting and giving the kind of access that we would be able to give, we're charging a lot less. Let's just put it that way. And having that free add-on workshop is really almost worth the price. I mean, it is worth the price by itself because to me, the biggest step between an unpublished or let's say non-professional level writer and a professional level writer is the finishing school of educated eyes giving you feedback, period. There's only so far isolation takes us,
You
which
know,
is why I'm
I've
thrilled
often
that we finally started a workshop because workshops were super important to my development as a writer.
I've thought that the single most important thing, or one of the most important things that I got from publishing, was access to published writers. We could sit, I could go to a convention, and even though if I'd only published one thing, I could sit with other writers who published hundreds of stories and books and won awards. And I was the puppy at the table, but I was at the table. And the conversations are totally different. What we're trying to do is to create a situation where you can move into that you can hear these conversations. A lot of the conversations that we have here are just versions of the conversations that Tananarive and I have at home, just and with our friends. That we're going to get together. We saw Brian Fuller's new movie, and then we're going to get together with him. We told him that we've hired a director of photography and we're going to be shooting a couple months. So he says, let's get together for lunch. And the
Mhm.
conversation at that table is going to be the kind of conversation that changes lives, the kind of information you cannot buy. Because
And
the
I
real information is what is the emotion behind the intellect. You know, it's just, how do you do this? We saw him battling. We saw him discouraged. We saw him fighting. We saw this and then we saw the beautiful baby that came out the other side. And to understand how he now feels about that process, he's going to share ideas like that. What is this process that we're in?
A-
What is
And
this
either we'll
world?
tell you secondhand what he says, or we may be able to get him to come talk to our workshop.
Yeah,
We
that's what
definitely
we
want to
really
have
want
one
to do
guest.
is to get these people into that workshop. So uh, Tom
And
Barkley has raised his hand.
before we go to Tom's question, I just wanted to let people know that the screenwriting workshop, whether or not you think you want to work in Hollywood, and trust me, I get it if you don't. I think it's very valuable for writers to learn story structure and visual storytelling through screenwriting. That's probably the biggest thing screenwriting has brought to me personally as a prose writer. It has made me a more visual and structured prose writer. You get the 3 hour masterclass. You get the add-on for 2 months free of the workshop. You get my collected essays I'm writing, which are mostly about prose, although there's some about screenwriting, and you get Stephen's Life Writing for Writers. That's all included in the low price. And with that, I'm going to
Yeah,
relinquish
and it's over
to the
right.
people who have questions.
Put the URL in there, and then let's start answering questions because that's one of the parts that's the most fun for me. Tom Barkley, what's up, dude?
Oh, little of this, little of that. You one thing I want to point out as you two are describing this amazing process that you find yourselves in and that you're loving doing together is that, you know, it doesn't work like that unless you have a partner who you love and trust. And I've seen it attempted in other situations where the heart and soul were not there. The emotional parts of the relationship were not working, and the end result was not beautiful. My wife was considered a difficult person, and people wondered why I married her, but we were able to get to the core of each other, and as a result, we produced operas, stage plays. Um, we created the LA Writers Conference and then lost it for financial reasons. And we also produced and guided the creation of a buddy's Christmas music record that has rejuvenated his career. As tough as it could be for us to be marriage partners, somehow we found the grace and the ability to blend together when it came to the creative work. And I've mentioned my
Do you
friends
think
Patricia Benicat.
you think you could give us a piece of advice about how you did it? What did you look for? How did you know, or what did you feel, or what? Give us a piece of advice, Tom.
I don't think either of you have an overdriving temper problem. Mary Lynn did. And I had to know how to make her feel heard, how to make her feel important and validated, and respect her authority, her responsibility, her position as a producer. I had to constantly find ways large and small to emphasize that so that she knew that I saw her as a partner and not a dependent. Or in the case of the LA Writers Conference, she was driving the project. That was it was her concept, and I did I don't know, I don't know what I'd be called, associate producer. I pushed things along to get her vision put into real life. That, by the way, is how I ran into Jerry and Larry at the Los Angeles Science Fiction Society. I had to keep doing in a way what you two do in the morning with your singing together, and that sort of dance that you do. I
The
had to
blessing
keep
dance.
that, yeah, I had to keep that forward in my mind because her trust and healing the wounds that would cost me her trust were things that I had to keep in mind all the time. I have mentioned my friends Yinka and Patrice to you. You know, Yinka, who is a world-renowned doctor, Patrice, who is a brilliant singer, actor, teacher of vocal music. They do the same thing. They have they have a way of knowing what each of them has that the other doesn't, and they respect that. And I love watching what the two of you do to make these projects come to fruition. It's
Well, I meant what I said when I said that when I asked you to offer a piece of advice. Uh, I I when there's something that's more important than my ego, that's
yes,
an acknowledgement that I know that my ego can get my ass in trouble here. That this is the moment when the band breaks up.
right.
This is when it happens, right here.
Yes, it does.
And we're experiencing that right here. So I wanted to say thank you very much, Tom. And please understand that I find your thoughts on this to be of genuine value. I really
I'm
appreciate
glad they are. I'm very glad they are.
it.
I'll
Okay.
tell you a joke related to it
Okay.
quickly.
Real quick, let me move because I want to move on.
On the big night of the writers' conference, the banquet evening, I was holding the mic on the boom to the speaker's podium, and it was Mary Lynn wrapping up the introduction and welcoming. And the last thing she said was, and I particularly want to thank my husband, the most abused man in any relationship in Los Angeles right now, without whom this event would not have occurred. It was awfully
That's
nice of her.
beautiful. And
Anyway,
that is love. I can feel your adoration of her shining from every word, Tom. What you just offered us was a real gem of a gift. Thank you so much.
you're welcome.
Okay. So,
Onward.
Jaime,
Hi, everybody. And yeah, Tom, thank you for that because that adds and helps me with what I want to share here today.
please.
At the beginning of the session, when Tanara Reeves started listing all the different levels of different successes that were going on that were keeping her awake, and you started talking about the doing of things you haven't done before and learning new skills and all that, I have to smile at the parallel that's happening in my own life with all of that stuff. Following the suggestion, don't take our word for it, try these things. And so I've been doing that here for several years now, and I'm feeling that same success happening at different levels. I found a file on my computer with story ideas that had at least 10 years worth of story ideas that I've never made progress or written on. At the same time as I found that file, because of conversations we've had here at Lifewriting, I've been writing some of my own sort of memoir life history stuff that other people want to know. I've been writing the history of the church I'm in, the history of the rock garden club that I'm in. There's all these different writing projects, some of them fiction, some of them fact. And to do 1% a day and to do one sentence a day, I'm finding myself pulled in too many directions by too many different things and maintaining balance. And then what's happening and what happened this week is the news stories about particularly Latino people being sent to El Salvador, or immigrants or citizens being seized, has put a whole new level of fear into my own reality. And then trying to bring that into my leadership on 3 different boards of directors that are all going through transition periods. And it's like to not collapse into my own fear, to continue to do the work one day at a time. I had to laugh when you talked about waking up mostly joyful, ready to go. I've been that way for years. I know that every single day, one day at a time, I'm living on gravy. I behaved badly in my teens and 20s, and the fact that I survived itself is a miracle. And,
So
you
say
know,
we all.
We'll take your word for, well, yeah, well,
but
I'll take your word for that, Jaime. I
but
get
you know, to show up one day at a time, and during the course of this week, I found myself like this with my spouse a little bit, and to be having some successes and some failures, learning things, growing pains, y- coping with that and continuing to make progress, to not let my ego get in the way, to remember to breathe, to remember to trust, and all those things. It's like
and
the
yeah.
value of the hour or hour and a half here once a week, and of this community, the circle groups, and just even reading without commenting or replying to get reminders throughout the day. Oh, yeah, breathe. Oh, yeah, just one sentence.
I mean, that's the thing. It's really the practices are super, super important. The more stressed we are, like external factors you talked about, which are infuriating and also terrifying, but the successes and all of it mixed together,
Right,
oh, I mean, it's a lot. So that's where, like, for instance, there are times when if Steve was out of town, because sometimes he goes to bed earlier than I do, though I've started to fall asleep earlier than he does lately. But if I'd been wired like that, there was a time I would have been up till 2 in the morning, just like riding it out.
right.
But I know better because then I would be trashed on Saturday and then I get behind in my writing. And then so my practice is no, you go to bed at a certain time. And I had to meditate to calm myself down so I could go to bed at that time. And yes, the sentence a day and it helps with multitasking too.
Well, and I think too, what helped this week, there's the old cliche, not my circus, not my monkeys, being able to detach from outside stuff. But what about when it is my circus and it is my monkey? And also,
Then be the
um,
ringmaster.
yeah, well, and also like it it's prudent for me to have my personal documentation on hand, to
Yes.
have a wad of cash available so that if I have to just get in my car and drive to the airport and buy a ticket somewhere else, I'm fortunate enough to be able to do that. But I don't need to let that preparing and that planning hijack my emotions or hijack the fact that it's spring in Alaska and my nursery is waking up and I've got weeds to kill. You know?
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing that I think about. Regardless of how dangerous you think the situation is, the people who are going to survive are the ones who stayed calm enough to see what behaviors would move them in the right direction. And those who are capable of saving other people are the ones who are calm when other people are losing their shit.
Right.
So there is no reason, there is no advantage to panicking ever. There is
Yeah.
advantage to saying this is a very dangerous situation. How do I respond to it? That makes sense. It the somebody made the comment. I forget who it was. I think it's a soldier who writes on political topics. He's talking about how we're getting hit with a lot of things from a lot of different directions. This is a tactic. It's shock and awe. It's
Right.
designed to overwhelm you so that you give up. It's very similar to a swarmer in boxing who comes out at the first round, in when the bell rings,
Right.
he's in your face. He wants to break your heart. What you have to do is cover up. Why? Because if he's pushing that hard, he's using up all the ATP in his muscles. He's going to slow down. He's going to get tired. There will be an opportunity. Stay calm, stay centered, take care of yourself, take care of your family, take care of the people that you love, take care of your neighbors, and look for the opportunity. Remember, don't play
Yeah.
for
Thank
ego,
you.
play to win. And
Right.
remember, I don't want to say this. I'm going to say it in a way that I think you will understand what I'm saying without saying anything get me in trouble. You are a tool using animal.
Uh,
What are the tools that will enable
Nice.
your survival
Right.
and your progress? Okay, tools. Okay.
Got it.
Uh, and this is, we can have these conversations, but the most important thing, for instance, over on Life Writing Circle at www.lifewrite.com, totally free. There is no politics on there. There is a
Right.
lot of discussion of how to take care of yourself, how to focus, how to respond with efficiency and effectiveness. If you know what I mean, that's all philosophy. I'm not interested in the words about things. I'm interested in the idea that I believe that from 1 billionth of a second after the Big Bang, the universe has been a story of interconnection and increasing complexity. And at every bump, people get scared. The world is all coming together. We're losing our autonomy. This happened, and people get scared. But the fact is, you can't stop the tide. It's going to happen. So we have to be the ones who can create a safe space, not just to protect ourselves, but to even be able to say to the people who are afraid, it's all right. Nothing, your family is going to come through this. We'll all come through this. We understand. You're afraid. I will not let you hurt me. I will not let you hurt what is mine.
And
Right.
I had an
I do not
understanding.
hate you for being afraid.
I had an understanding, Jaime, when I was taking my morning walk the other day, that if I ever saw something like that in my neighborhood where agents were in somebody's house confronting them, I would not only be videoing with my phone, trying to be a human shield, I'd be calling my neighbor and say, "Hey, you need to come over here. I don't even know who this person is, but this is illegal, first of all, because they often don't have warrants or paperwork." Um, yeah, I felt that in myself. I would be
And,
one of
and
those.
may I say that when you look at the people who are doing things that you find objectionable, I can promise you that they are always violating the three gates.
Yes.
So your task is to find a way to be safe and happy and progress your life while staying within the three gates. And you spend the additional time and energy it takes to figure out how to be a good human being and still get yours.
And so the where I had some success and some failure this week is I was surrounded by other people who are already tipped over the edge of their own fear.
Yes.
And they're coming from that place of I have to do something now, and this sense of urgency that has not played out in my life or in my experience. When I come
They're
from
doing what's
that kind of
imperative instead of
emergent
what's important.
when I come from that kind of urgency, I'm usually making some bad mistakes.
Yes.
Staying calm helps.
And that's
And that
what your enemies want you to do. They want
right.
you
Exactly.
to panic.
And so as you guys are handling all of the stuff that's going on in your life, I'm paying very close attention to how you're not getting trapped by that sense of urgency on what has to happen immediately.
What has
Well,
to
it's
happen
hard.
immediately is I have to
Yeah.
stay calm
Hard.
and do what's right in front of me. We
Yeah.
have Jason. Jason has developed a love of Stoic philosophy. So we're making
Mhm.
him our official Stoic philosopher on Circle. So instead of just talking to us, he posts something over there. And one of the things he posted is just, you have to let go of what you cannot change
Right.
and do the things in front of you that you can do. And whenever you run into people who are panicking, you feel fear to the degree that you're not in action. They're not doing
That's
what's right
it.
in front of
Action.
them.
Action.
Oh,
Take an
that's
action.
good. That's
Action.
useful. Thank
Action
you.
is the antidote. I was just writing that in a scene in my novel in progress.
Thank you.
Then I'm going to jump off, Steve, that more my character, when she sits still, she's overcome with her trauma and fear of what she's experienced. But when she's in action, she's building a fire, I mean, and that's hard. So
I
she's
mean, it's
really
as little
absorbing
as go
herself.
for a walk, let
Yeah.
Right.
alone a run, or get a heavy bag and beat the holy living hell out of it
Or take
while
up drumming
imagining
like I
the face
did.
of the
Right.
person you dislike. Whatever you're doing, take any action. And increase your own fitness if nothing else, because it's
Right.
that idea. There's going to be a moment. There is always a moment. You cannot attack without opening yourself to a counterattack. It's not even possible. So you stay calm and you wait for your moment.
Right.
And in that moment, if you are motivated by things that are larger than your own life, you're very hard to stop. It's very hard to stop somebody who does not care and is willing to do whatever it takes. So, in terms of we are the recipients, we are the beneficiaries of heroes, men and women, who were willing to give everything they had to make this country what it is, to make this world what it is. I am hoping that the people I'm talking to here want to be those kinds of people
Mhm.
because that's what the children need to be safe. You don't have to have children, but I do believe we have to make the world a better place for children.
Well, then I know how to take actions for myself. And I think with some of these people that are panicking around me, to protect myself from going with them in that energy, I can invite them to action
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this,
and actions that may not make sense to them, but that if they just start moving with me, whether it's taking a walk
yes.
or helping in the garden
So
or,
you don't have to tell them what you're doing. Let's say let's
yeah,
talk while we're walking.
yeah.
So you are helping them connect with the meat sack.
And
I
there's a
had
level of
somebody
leadership that is,
I
yeah.
had somebody just 3 days ago said they've been in the hospital. They're doing some things that they're fighting for their lives, and they wanted to know why should they keep going. What is the meaning of life? How do I do it? It's like you can't get to a more serious question than that. So I just told him, hold your breath until you pass out. You, you cannot do it. Your body does not ask, why do I keep breathing? Your foundation needs to be that certainty of the body saying, forget all the things you think you're worried about, get the next breath. After that, then you can ask, how shall we be together? So first understand that the meaning of life is to live. Then it's the morality and the communication and other things, all of which I've spent my entire life studying. But get that grounding. When people start feeling, there's no meaning to life and existential despair, all that stuff, those are all people running around in their heads. Hold your breath until you pass out. And now you'll get the meaning of life in about 30 seconds. Your hind brain will tell you what the meaning of life is. So if you understand that these people are so afraid that their amygdalas are functioning to shut down their forebrains, get them to move. Take them for a walk, get them to work in the garden, and talk about the seasons of life. Just you work this out before you have those conversations. You're going to have 100 more conversations like this. Know what you're going to say and do. Have an answer that is connected to the physical, an answer that is connected to the emotional, an answer that is connected to the mental, financial, and to the artistic. Versus let's get in the best shape we can and make money because we need to be able to protect our families. And that's telling them something to do. They want to do something with all this energy that they've got. And if they can't do anything, that energy is going to turn inward on them. Okay?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
so you have stepped into the role of leader. Okay? You are willing to do that for your community, the Hispanic community, the gay community, your local community. So that means you reach out to me directly. If you need to discuss these things, I will be there. We can brainstorm together because you're saving other
Thank
people.
you.
You're not just about you. Okay. And I think that all the people who are on this call are about more than just themselves. So I have been the recipient of people who are the recipient of people, recipient of people. We're part of a line of people. Being a hero just means owning your life. Nobody is coming to rescue us. We have to rescue ourselves, and we have to rescue the children and the child within the frightened people who don't believe that they have any power. They just, oh, it's overwhelming. It it was not an accident that this was overwhelming. That was the intent. Okay, so be calm, be a little disconnected, and remember that you're a tool using creature.
Thank you.
I don't think I'm going to get in trouble for saying that. All right, Jaime. You take care, buddy. Ah, all right. More questions. We have time to get into. Anybody got anything creative going on? Suzanne Paul, you've been smiling like a sphinx. No, let's see. Where is Suzanne? Where is Suzanne? She was there a minute ago. Oh, there she is. There she is. Okay, so
I'm
yes.
figuring out how to use my phone for Zoom. I'm usually at home on my computer.
Well, I'm so glad that you decided to join us, not being at home, and you're doing fine. What can we do for you today? Just, drop something. What are your reactions or thoughts?
My thoughts are that it's very important, everything that we've talked about in terms of this whole overwhelming of information being intentional. Um, and needing to take a beat and needing to take a breath and not letting that overwhelm you.
Yes.
That's very important.
When you understand, there is a book that I remember where this spy, Modesty Blaze, one of my very favorite, spy adventure novels, and she's very confused and she's depressed because her partner has died, and she
Mm,
she can't understand why her brain isn't working the right way. She's in this situation. Ordinarily, she would be, thinking of answers, and then somebody says, your eyes suggest that you may be drugged. And the
mm,
instant she realizes that the enemy had been putting a drug in her water,
mm-hmm,
even before the drug left her system, just knowing that this confusion and fatigue and fear was chemical rather than the nature of her being, she instantly became
mm-hmm,
stronger. She instantly
mm-hmm,
began to say, wait a minute, if this is coming from me, I can't fight me, but if this is coming from you, wait
mm-hmm,
a minute, you don't get to control my heart. When you look at all that's going on and you think to yourself that you're feeling confused and afraid and this, that, and the other, and then think, this is deliberate. This is tactical. This is strategic. This is a deliberate attempt to weaken me. Why would they do
mm-hmm,
that? Because they are afraid of us. The instant people wake up and say, no more, the instant people wake up and say, I am willing to give my life before I back away from my dreams, the instant
mm-hmm,
you do that, the outside world says, I'm going to give you what you want because you're too much for me. I'm going to mess with this person over here who doesn't have that kind of strength. But when you find that strength, so you're nodding right now. You know
mm-hmm,
exactly what I'm talking about. And you have helped other people find that strength within them. So if you wake up and you realize that this is not about you, this is about what somebody did to you, get
mm-hmm,
mad, get pissed, take your attitude. Your attitude is one of, no, you will not tell me who I am. I will
mm-hmm,
tell me who I am. I
mm-hmm,
will tell me every day I wake up and I say, who am I today? Who am I?
mm-hmm,
I'm the person who has to be on here for an hour and a half and never lose my cool and always stay focused and hear what everybody's saying and find the gems in what everybody's saying and bring them out so I can share them with everybody. I have to be that bitch. Okay.
mm-hmm.
And if I can be that on Friday, then I can be it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And then on the weekends, I can chill. But so,
Well, it's interesting that you say that because I came across a book that I just had to buy that said affirmations for
yeah,
that bitch. And
yes,
that
yes.
was the title. And I just fell in
I
love with
love
it.
that.
But it's important that you have to have that attitude.
Yeah, if there's not some part of you, if you don't think about the way a mother lion protects her cubs, a mother dog, a mother cat, at that point, you mess with that and you will see that bitch.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever people talk about, how can I be safe? And I say, well, you could use a knife, you could do this, you could do that, but I might get arrested. You're not that bitch. Because first of all, I somebody threatens me, I'm going to be very mild to them. I'm going to be apologetic to them. I'm going to retreat to the wall. But then if you step into it, I will do whatever it takes because I have done
Mm-hmm.
everything I need to do legally. And the protection of my body is more important than spending some money on a lawyer. More important than spending time in jail. Because if I have done everything to back away, then I think I've got a very, very, very good chance to say to the judge, Your Honor, I was afraid for my life.
Mm-hmm.
And because I am over 50 years old. I do simply, if, you know, the people who have to worry about going to jail for stuff like that are the kind of people who get into bar fights. I've never even seen a bar fight. You know, I don't go to bars. And it's like, no, you want to fight with me, you got to come at me. If you set yourself up so that you're only willing to fight for things you're willing to die for, you become a very dangerous human being. Because the people who want to push you to fight, they're not willing to die for this.
Mhm.
They're willing to kill you, but they're not willing to die. So the warrior attitude
Mhm.
of I'm ready to die and I'm ready to take you with me is exactly the strong position that they do not want you to come to. They want to keep you
Mhm.
kind of scared, and maybe if I keep my head down, and maybe if I don't do this, and oh God, I'm helpless. I'm this. No, you're not. You are powerful beyond belief. You are that bitch.
Mhm.
Once you touch that place, they have got to get you away from that before they can hurt you, before they can control you.
Mhm.
Remember that every single day to what are you going to do today? That ultimately I could take a look at this and relate this to my physical health, just my emotions, and I had to exercise before I did this. My emotional, that's physical, emotional. I get to share with my family. I get to remind myself who I am. Financial. We did our ad for our screenwriting course. We're going to kick the shit out of that screenwriting course, and I hope everybody will come to it. And then art, I'm going to immerse myself in art today. I'm going to go see
Mhm.
Sinners. I'm going to go see Ryan Coogler's new movie. As soon as I get off this, I'm getting an Uber and I'm going to see Sinners. And I know. You see, my days. I connect with my body, my heart, my money, and my art every day.
Mhm.
And I want you to do the same thing. You've got that thing. We're all born knowing that we're going to die. So what
Mhm.
matters is that we spend our lives doing things that give meaning to our days before
Mhm.
that moment. And the person who lives in the light of their soul in that way, try to stop them. Just try to stop. When you saw
Mhm.
Cory Booker up there for more than 24 hours talking,
Mhm.
that was a man who was willing to die to accomplish what he wanted to do. You look at the way
Mhm.
people attack that. Oh, he's being performative. He's being a show. They hated that. Because if you had
Mhm.
10 people like that, they could take 100 people. 10 people willing to die can take 100 people who are scared. Okay?
Mhm.
And 100 people can take 1,000. And 1,000 people can take 100,000. All we need is enough people to wake up and say, no more. That's all that's
Yep.
necessary. We always have the power. Never
And
forget
it's
that.
important. I'm
It
surrounded by a lot of scared people at work.
That's right. And Jaime was scared, is surrounded by scared people. So you are now anointed a leader. You're going to stay calm in the storm because you know what you're willing to die for and you're not willing to fight for anything less than that. And once you decide to fight, once you flip that switch, if that other person isn't willing to die, they will lose because
Mhm.
you're not going to worry about the law any more than a mother protecting her child would. A mother protecting her child ain't worried about going to jail. All
Oh,
that, all,
exactly.
that it's I'm ready to die and I'm ready to take you with me. There is nothing that is stronger than that.
Mhm.
Suzanne, you are that bitch.
Yay! I am that bitch.
Thank you for sharing, sweetheart. Is there anything else? Is there anything else for you today?
Oh, no, that is it. Thank you so much. In fact, I have got to jump off now because I've got an appointment.
You go
But
and you shine in that appointment. Light up that room. You'll accomplish your goal, and we'll see you next week.
wonderful. Thank you so much.
You betcha. Okay.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. See, this is so great. This is so great. I love this so much. I get to be something very close to what I actually am. You know, uh, this is warts and all. This is Steve. This is who I am, and I appreciate very much that you let me be myself with you for a little while. I have to put a mask on this. I have to put a shade over this a lot of the time. I can't just be this guy around most people. You know, it because they literally toast. It's not. How many of you have had felt like you've had to turn your heat and your light down to not hurt the people around you? You know, or yeah, that's right. That's right. We do. So what I'm asking for you is turn that heat up, but keep it lit until it's time. You know, that let that every morning focus that fire, bring that up in yourself, but you only use it when you need to. Avalon Jaka,
Hello.
hello.
I'm just
And
working.
yeah, well, that's great. And you know, you're in life writing professional,
Yeah.
and I'm we really liked what you did there last week. That you know, it's like as I recall, it was if you had more of that Tanith Lee energy, that fairy tale, dark fairy tale. I'm talking. I'm not talking about kitty fairy tales. I'm talking
Yeah.
about the original ones. That you is that the way you naturally think? Are those the kinds of stories that you'd like to do?
Yeah, I'd say I've been working on an epic fantasy novel for almost 12 years. And I definitely resonate the most with Miss of Avalon and some of those older classic fantasy versions. And yeah,
Okay,
that's
so you know that there is a vast market for that. There's a
mhm.
vast hunger for the mythic, you know. So if you can dive into the mystery in your heart and and find the gems of the moments when you felt despair or you were overcome with wonder, and you develop the skill to be able to represent that in your work, you can have a career. You can have a career. I mean, I don't believe that this thing called writing is out of the reach of the people who deeply desire it. I believe that it's something that you can have, that because you've shown a willingness to do the work and to try to be honest about what you feel and think. That's it. You know, that's it. And then, you know, Tananarive and I will give you everything we've got, and you just keep searching for other people to give you their insights so that you can say, oh, you know, they were right about this, but wrong about this for me, or wrong about this overall, or whatever. And maybe you'll come back around one day and say, hey, Steve, have you thought about this? You know, I'd love for you to come back around and teach us, you know, because that's how we grow together. But, you know, is there anything we can do for you today?
Not today. I have really appreciated this conversation today, and yeah, I just feel like it builds on the conversation we had last week with Life Writing Pro, and I just really appreciate you. You started off the feedback of that session saying, we're not trying to be basically kingmakers. We're not trying to pull out stars. We're showing everyone we want to give everyone equal consideration and how looking at both the content and the structure as well. I really appreciated um that double-sided because all of these stories I have just loved. They're so much fun, and I think that all of these writers have so much potential, and I can't wait to see where everyone goes because
So
it's
we are thinking. We don't know what we're going to do, but we're thinking about the possibility of making life writing professional for people who have bought one of our main courses. That life writing professional is on a donation basis. It's possible that we might set it up so that you pay what you can and you bring your heart, because I think the integrity of people trying to working together is so critical. And if you've made that commitment, you've put skin in the game by buying one of our courses, maybe we don't charge by the month. We really don't know what we want to do. What we do know is that we love this family and we love this community. We want to keep it going. So who knows? Anyway, thank you so much. Listen, everybody unmute yourselves and say goodbye because we have done it again.
So long.
Thank you
Farewell. See
all.
everybody next
I
Bye,
week.
appreciate
everybody.
your
Thanks,
help.
Bye.
Thank
everybody.
Hope
you.
you
See
all
you
have
next
a good
time.
Love
week. I
you.
hope I have a good
Thank
week.
you
Absolutely.
all for the kind wishes and the support and for being such wonderful people.
Mwah.
No, and thank you for being
Hang
here,
in there.
Anna. You know, we have people
Take
here
care.
who are just having fun, and we have people
Bye.
here who have
Bye.
genuine needs in their lives. Be kind to each other, love each other, tell each other the truth, and take care of yourselves because you never know when somebody might need a little bit of your energy. So be sure you have, top off your energy every day so you've got something to share. And may the divinity within you, or the divinity within me, salutes and acknowledges the divinity within each and every one of you. Namaste. Take care.
Namaste.
All
Take
right.
care.
Bye bye.